Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very happy to be reacting to the shortlist for the Booker Prize for 2023. This has come as a bit of a orphan video. Usually I do like a reaction to the long list as well when I follow prizes. I did film a video reacting to the long list, which was announced in August, but a lot of things were happening in my personal life and it took me a long time to get to editing it. And by the time that I was editing it, I was like, you know what, it's a bit late to be posting this. And I didn't have a lot of relevant thoughts that I thought I was adding to anything. So I thought, you know what, I'll let it go. I'll read a couple books, from the long list, and then I'll see what the short list looks like. So I was able to find 5 books from the long list without, searching too much. So, they were maybe on NetGalley or they were at my library and stuff like that, because I've sort of discontinued using some other service like Scribd and stuff like that. So yeah, I was able to find 5. So the first one was Old God's Time by Sebastian. This was originally in my video that I filmed for the long list, one of the books I was excited about. It was giving me Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan vibes, and I thought it would be a potentially interesting commentary about policing, especially I feel like through the last few years and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I DNF'd it. I tried to read like the beginning twice and I really struggled. And this is when I told myself, you know what? You don't need to read this book. So I DNF'd it after a really kind of random scene about a man suffering from what I believe they call indigestion in this book, but I believe was diarrhea. Also, there's so many mention to the main character's penis, and I was like, okay, I don't think this book is for me. Let's just move on. So I don't have more thoughts on this book because I haven't finished reading it, so I can't give you a proper review, but let's move swiftly on. Next, I read Pearl by Hughes, and well, I'm glad that was a short read because frankly, I thought at times it was nonsensical, and I personally didn't connect with it, but as a general book, I'm not entirely sure what it was trying to say, potentially even what it was about at times. Like, it was just, yeah, there was sometimes a lot of muddled thoughts in it that I just didn't follow that much. And because I didn't connect with it, I didn't try to engage with it more to find out, like to think about what it was trying to say and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess one that I'm kind of glad also isn't included on the short list, just like Old God's Time. Next, we have The House of Doors by Twan, and I'm actually gutted this one is not on the shortlist because I loved it. I thought it was really good. I love the different characters and the meta of the story within the story within the story. And yeah, I thought it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's one that I would recommend. Yeah, just good things to say about it. Then I've been in the midst of reading Ascension by MacInnes. Frankly, I would have DNF'd this one, but I got that one through a NetGalley arc. And because I don't want to ruin my score, I definitely want to review it. So I will finish it and then I will review it. But I'm just, again, I feel very disconnected. I'm not entirely sure where it's going. It's giving me a bit of Pearl vibes in the kind of a young female character that's, I don't know what she's trying to say, but she's reminiscing and at the same time being her adult self. And there's a disconnect for me. But I'm only a couple of chapters in. Again, it's the second time I've done those chapters. So when I've done that a couple of times, you know that I'm not connecting totally with it. It's not a good sign. But yeah, I'll carry on. And at some point one day, I'm sure I'll review it on here. But because it's not shortlisted, it doesn't really matter here anyway. And finally, the last book that I've read, but also I guess it's the first book of the next section, which is books that have been shortlisted, is I read If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. And I have a lot of thoughts about this book, but I will, spare you most of them. First thing is that I'm a little bit surprised that this book has been included on the shortlist. But I feel like sometimes, because a lot of people I saw when I was looking at, videos around BookTube when the long list came out, highlighted that this book was actually a series of short stories, and that's not usually eligible for the Booker, but because this is sort of interrelated, potentially that's why. And I feel like when a prize breaks its own rules, it just goes all the way to the shortlist because they're like champion in that book in this some sort of way. Because there's so many stories, that's why I have a lot of thoughts, because some of them I really connected with. The first story I really, really connected with, and it's focusing on the kind of second child of immigrant parents from Jamaica to the US, and he's growing up clearly just kind of between cultures, and he's obviously second generation, and there's a lot of feeling that I found myself relating to, and I really enjoyed that it was in the second person. I actually really enjoyed that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. But then after that, I have to say the other stories started breaking down a little bit for me, and I connected with it less. But yeah, I'm still glad that I read it, actually. That's not one that I wish I DNF'd. But yeah, I don't know. I have, again, a lot of thoughts. That's a book that I guess I would love to discuss with someone, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well, because there are so many stories, there's so much to it. But what I really did enjoy about it is that the fact that it's connected to each other, so you could hear of a character and then, you know, you'd hear again about it. And the character I talked about in the first story, even though it's in second person, he comes back as a narrator again later in, you know, in another story, this time I think in the third person. So yeah, it's just really interesting the way that Escoffery went around that and discussed like different facets of life and roles and identities, especially for Black men. And yeah, just a general interesting book, but I don't know that I loved it or that it was for me, basically. And the other 5 books that were shortlisted are books that I have not read, so I don't have a lot of things to say about them, but I will give you very short thoughts. The first one is Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. I had thought about requesting this one through NetGalley, actually, but then I decided against it because I wasn't sure if it was going to be shortlisted. Oops. But now that I'm looking back on it, I just feel like it looks like a heavy book that I'm just not sure I actually want to read, so why put myself through that? It's giving me a bit of a Cursed Bread vibes, and I'm not sure about why. And although I enjoyed Cursed Bread, I'm not sure that I would reread it. So yeah, so a book that potentially, if it wins, I will go ahead and try it. But in the meantime, I don't feel like I'm that keen to pick it up. Then we have This Other Eden by Paul Harding. This is one that I actually found really interesting when I first read about it, but then I've not been seeing really good reviews, I have to say. So I'm not sure what went wrong. But yeah, the whole idea of basically a bunch of, you know, castaways living on this little island off the coast of the US and just living kind of almost like a free life, and that being undone. Like, that sounds all super intriguing to me. So one that I potentially, again, would be interested in picking up if it wins, or if I hear more about it. You know, if you've loved it, let me know why. Because it's an interesting concept. I just don't know if the execution was as great. Then we have Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. This one wasn't really that much of interest to me, and it still isn't. It seems to be based in Ireland, so I think the blurb talked about in Dublin, this woman goes to the door and there's like the secret police is there, and I don't know what ensues, but I don't know. Again, there's a theme of policing, which is really interesting, but yeah, it just didn't appeal to me. Then might as well keep going with the third Paul of the list. There are more Pauls on this list than women. Yay! So we have The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, and this seems to be following a bit of a dysfunctional family, so the different members and how they're dealing with life or what's happening to them. Again, not one that I was particularly interested in reading, so let's move swiftly on to the last book on this shortlist, and it is Western Lane by Chetna Maroo. And I think from the long list, this was my top book that I wanted to read. I haven't been able to find it. I'm still excited and keen to read it. And hopefully I can find it, you know, if my library acquires it or something. I would really be keen, and if it wins, then I will purchase it, I think. So yeah, that was the short list for the Booker. I have to say, I think this seems like a good short list. I wasn't super excited about the long list, so I couldn't see myself being super excited about the short list either. But this seems to be a good mix of different things. Again, I'm really sad the House of Doors isn't on the shortlist, but you know, we'll live, it's fine. I obviously have only read one book, and I'm likely to only have read that one book before the winners announced, because I'm not planning on going out of my way to read any of these 5 other books. That means I really cannot give a prediction of what I think is going to win. What I hope it wins is probably Western Lane, but again, I haven't read it. I don't know anything really about it that much, but I'm excited for it, which, you know, is a good feeling. So that's the one I guess I'll be rooting for, I guess. Which one do you think will win? If you read all of these books, which one was your favorite and why? Which one do you recommend I actually go out of my way to pick up? Let me know what your thoughts on this Booker shortlist. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back. Bye!